And welcome to yet another episode of Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max, with your hosts Tom Mangelli and Doug Max. And we have a special guest tonight, funny man, Adam Oliensis. What's your name?
Adam Oliensis. We practiced this before the show, Tom.
Yeah, he actually pronounced it correctly, which puts him ahead of about 90% of MCs. So,
wow. I'm proud of myself then.
Adam Oliensis. Tell me if anything is wrong. New Jersey comedian. I know him as a strong, powerful social justice warrior.
Well, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to be, isn't it? You know, there's nobody fighting against social justice. We just all have different definitions of what that is.
Well, that's what but I would say, when you ask the question, is it an incumbent on all of us? I would say no, not the people that think they're social justice warriors, but they're morons and totally arguing for the wrong side, believing they're microchips that are going to brain control them in the virus. My God.
Well, but Hitler thought he was good. I mean, we all think we're doing the right thing. Some of us are wrong about it. And in our case, about 43% of Americans are just, with their heads up their asses. That's all. So it's up to us to compassionately educate them. That's my view. And with any luck, get a laugh here or there.
Now I'm thinking of, did Hitler think he was doing the right thing?
Of course he did. He was saving the fatherland. True. As far as he was concerned. But I
wish you hadn't have said that, because now I want to sing the German national anthem. I hear that very, very often, because I follow Formula One.
The German national anthem?
And when Mercedes wins, they play the German national anthem.
Which Van du Morales or I don't even.
Yeah, no, they've updated it.
Have they? Yeah. As I said it, I thought they can't still be. I mean, here's the thing when you think about it, Germany has become the conscience of Europe. It's like it's an astonishing thing.
My girlfriend's daughter went to is graduating from Heidelberg University through her father. She had German citizenship. You know what it cost her for college, Adam?
Zilch, to use the German expression. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great school.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom.
Yes.
We would not be here talking to one another and Adam unless.
Good point. Unless we bring up our sponsor, Jack Hoffman of J. Irwin Productions. If you want to put together a comedy show for a fundraiser or a private party or a showcase at a restaurant, Jack Hoffman's the guy to contact. He knows all the comics. He puts on great shows and he's great to work with. You would contact him by emailing jack@jirwinproductions.com. He's the guy to see. Right, Doug?
He's the guy to see, to write to, text. Watch your spelling, people.
You don't want to necessarily see him naked, but you want to see him. So that's.
I once saw Yogi Berra naked. I don't know if you know that.
I'm shocked that you live to tell. Dude, tell us the story. You can't just leave that alone. You got to follow up with.
Let that dangle a while.
Yeah,
and the rest of our show, don't let it dangle. Tell the story, Tom.
Which is what I imagine. A lot of what you saw was it dangling.
Now, mind you, all right. His brother owned a racquetball club in the 80s, and I think it was Fairfield, and I was a member there. And Yogi was old by this time. He was old and wrinkly, and I'm getting dressed in the locker room. I look over to my left, and there's Yogi Berra sitting on a bench, stark naked, completely naked, birthday suit, happy birthday. And wow. I still wake up screaming. I just have to say that.
Did he say it ain't over till it's over?
No, and when you see a celebrity, you're thinking, oh, he's eating soup. I don't want to interrupt him. I was like, should I say no? Don't say anything.
I saw Morley Safer naked.
Did you?
Yeah,
was it good
at a tennis club. He was upside down. It was in the 80s. Not again in the 80s. Everything, all the horrible naked seeing was in the 80s.
When you saw him, did you hear like seconds ticking in your head.
It was just his goods going back and forth. You know?
Oh God.
I saw my grandfather naked when I was a small boy in the locker room, not naked, but without a shirt. And had his hair, he had so much hair on his body that it was terrifying to me. And I realized that he was actually a much smaller man than I thought he was. Because it turned out his shirt never touched his skin. He just
That's funny.
yeah.
He would have been a good football player before they got all the padding they got.
Yeah,
When I started
yes.
watching football, they had shoulder pads. They were not allowed to wear gloves like sissies, you know? It was shoulder pads, knee pads, and
That was it.
that was it. And they played, oh my God, they played. I remember seeing games of Vikings and the Rams in the snow, in the mud. They're covered in mud. You can't read numbers. And then AstroTurf and more padding. I could play. I'm 65. I could play football in the protection these guys have.
Yeah.
So Adam, you talk about hairy chest. I'm Italian. My whole family's Italian, so I'm not a stranger to a hairy chest. And those are just the women in my family.
Okay, you know something? Reset. Or this is going to be I saw this guy naked, hairy chest show. But I got to write that down for our promo.
Naked.
So I introduced Adam as not only a very, I didn't say very talented comedian. I performed with Adam. I don't know how many times, but a number of times. But I know him and I appreciate him best, honestly, because of his being informed and writing the patently obvious. And sometimes you attract odd trolls. I do too. I don't do it as much or aggressively as you, but there's certainly been many things that I couldn't keep quiet about in the last 4 years. And
Sure.
and things are still going on. And honestly, the season is ramping up and it's stepping up. It's a year from midterms. And
Oh Jesus, we got to go through this again.
yeah,
So we got to do this again.
Yeah.
It's like sex. What again? You want again? It's just- I thought we were good for this season.
until there's a hurricane that hits Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we deep diving into politics here? Is that what we're doing?
Oh no, we were brushing aside it because I wanted to talk to compliment you on your social justice worrying. I can't say that word. Warrioring.
Fightering. If you're with the Trump administration, you call them fighters. I think we have combatants. I'm a social justice combatant. So combat. Yeah, no, it's just like the hard thing with that is the difficulty with the politics in our country today is that everybody feels they're defending something that's righteous. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong from their point of view, but they're just wrong really.
Yeah,
often.
that's a good way to put it.
So the problem, as I see it, is that in our culture now is that the sort of flattening out of the democratization of information and having a megaphone. Everybody has a megaphone. There are no real gatekeepers anymore. If you can get your message out there one way or another, you have all kinds of avenues to do that. But the problem is that
everybody has a megaphone and stupid opinions.
And that the sensation, as Isaac Asimov says, is that my ignorance is as good as your knowledge. And everybody feels that what they know is the truth. And there's good aspects to there being no gatekeepers, and that is that an array of opinions can be disseminated, but there's bad stuff, which is that every ignorant prick can be shouting just as loudly and be as amplified as anybody else.
And they can find proof on the interweb of their stupid idea, which is probably where they got it in the first place.
Yeah. No, but
so I don't know how much live comedy you've done in the last year. I know every comedian has basically done a lot less, but as you come out and consider the environment, I guess one question I would ask is to what extent what have you learned about doing politics in your act?
That you really have to understand who you're performing for and whether they're receptive to it. And most groups are not, because opinions are so mixed. I've done some political fundraisers, and that's fun because I can really express my opinions. But you're there to entertain and hopefully make people laugh. And the things that I find funny politically, the group I'm performing for may not. And so, as much as I'd like to go for it with them, it would just create it wouldn't help anybody. It wouldn't help them. It wouldn't help me. It would just make everybody feel bad. I wouldn't convince anybody of anything constructive.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to pick your spots. That's what I've learned, and more, and that's unfortunate, because political humor used to be something that both sides could really listen to, but it isn't. It isn't anymore.
Right.
So
I
if you
agree
do it-
1,000%.
If you do it publicly, because I will make the point, you quoted Shakespeare before. I have often used the example of the Fool and Lear as being one of the only ones that could speak truth to power, and he did it through satire. And our society needs its fools, and we had Jon Stewart, and we had, we have John Oliver and Samantha Bee and Colbert, and the more polarizing we become, the harder it becomes for even through satire for people to get that kind of message out. But it becomes all the more important that the information get out there.
Yeah, but also, because the world is so entertainment saturated now, right? We're not going to be the first one there. By the time I write and get on stage with a political joke, it moves so fast that joke is over. That joke isn't really even relevant. The news cycle is less than 24 hours now.
You know what I've learned? If you take a joke like that everybody's doing, and you somehow put a dog having an orgasm in it, it becomes uniquely yours and memorable.
I knew there was a reason I was coming on this show, and it was to learn shit like that. Yeah.
Now, guys, I
I
have to apologize. If you see like a flickering light and dimming, they didn't execute another prisoner. I have this lamp that, for some reason, I don't know if there's a short or what, but it keeps coming on and going off, coming on, going off.
Oh, I thought you were thought you were getting the light, Tom.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for you, just keep an eye on it, because that is not a good thing.
Yeah.
And it might mean that the bulb needs to be tightened.
It's
it might mean
brand new lamp too.
Did Mo assemble it?
No.
But Mo is a friend of Tom's who
I was waiting.
I hope is not listening to the show.
Yeah.
You think he follows you, Tom?
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's got too many things going on in his head.
Yeah, we should actually make a list of the people we don't want listening to our show because of the things we've said about them. And
I'll leave.
Okay. So
Adam.
Yes.
Doug and I were talking before the show. We were trying to figure out what nationality you might be.
I am Lithuanian Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish. The name Oliensis, I had a great uncle who at Ellis Island thought he was anglicizing the name. It was probably Rabinowitz.
Wow.
No,
mine got turned from Mindcheck to Max.
Yeah, that was that because your great uncle wasn't out of his mind.
No, it skips a generation.
Yeah. So yeah,
Lithuanian Jews.
Yeah.
Where's Lithuania?
It's up there. It's actually like up there it's sort of southeast of of the Scandinavian countries. But it's sort of between there and Russia. But the people the people in Lithuania are not Scandinavian. They're more Russian-ish.
Hmm.
So, there were large Jewish communities in that area. Very, very sort of. I'm a direct descendant of a great rabbi named the Vilna Gaon. I think I'm the 8th, 9th, 10th.
Such a nice boy.
Yeah, the 11th generation direct descended from him, and he's spinning in
Wow.
his grave to hear me on this show.
Wow. No, but can you like leverage that? Like, can you perform, ancient Jewish rites as, with such a rabbinical?
I'm not
age?
ordained. I'm not ordained myself, but when I have done like Orthodox Jewish shows, and I mentioned that, the Orthodox are very impressed. Oh, from the Vilna Gaon. Oh, or else they're just being polite.
I tell the story about my dad, and Jews get very impressed, and then I tell my jokes, and
not so much. Yeah.
And,
Why are they impressed?
Oh, my father was an American soldier captured by the Nazis in World War II in the Battle of the Bulge. He was not a POW. He was a slave laborer. He was forced into slave labor. And after 3 or 4 months of sleeping alongside the roads, repairing German railroad tracks in the winter, he and a few other people escaped.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
Yeah. And then the comedy part of it is when he went into the service in 19 years old, he weighed like 150 pounds. When he got out, after basic, and he was only in service a few months. So, 6 months of World War II, he came out weighing 94 pounds.
Oh
and so it made me think,
that's my birth weight.
That's a great diet program.
Yeah. Well, this relates. My father was in this Army of Occupation. He was not in the wave that attacked, but was in the Army of Occupation in Europe afterwards. And his mother was such a bad cook that he was the only guy who preferred Army cooking to his mother's cooking. And he's like, "Oh no, I got to go home to home cooked meals," So
that's funny. So what's on the wall behind you? Sorry, OHUD comedy.
Oh yeah, somehow the L in Low HUD is excised.
Okay, Low HUD.
Low HUD comedy. That's it's an endeavor I started in 2010, producing comedy shows and touring. What we have right now is something called the Age Wine Tour, Age WHINE. We have a bunch of themed shows. Our favorite one is called Raising Millennials, It's Our Own Damn Fault. And that's the theme of the show, performed by and for parents of people who are breathlessly raising millennial children. It's people who are force-fed a diet of tablets, cell phones, and internet data, and refuse to read real books. What do you do? It's impossible. There's no solution.
My kids are launched. They're 24 and 26. I saw my son reading a book in front of the TV with the TV off. And I said, "What are you reading?" He's Catch 22.
Wow.
I go, "This is for a class?" He goes, "No."
He's just reading.
I said, "Are you okay?" I started him on Vonnegut. and he discovered Catch 22.
Wow,
he loves Vonnegut.
Yeah, that's great. Good for you. I've tried to turn my kids on to Salinger and Vonnegut and Hemingway, and it's just all irrelevant to them.
How old are they?
Well, I have 4. They're anywhere from 26 to 13, and they all did read when they were younger. But they've abandoned it as some of them.
Maybe when they have a birthday coming up, consider I'll double check with my son and get back to you. But if I'm not mistaken, consider Cat's Cradle. And the reason I mention it is because very early on in the book, if you read it, one of the guys involved in the Manhattan Project is like going loony playing with cat's cradles, and it's a really, really strong image of a dad and his son. And I don't know. Anyway, I guess my son was thinking that could be my dad.
Ah, all right. Well, good, good. Yeah, I'll give it. You know, but when I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if I could be in touch with my friends 24/7? You know, wouldn't that be a wonderful? So when our generation came up with cell phones where they could do that, right? We thought it was like the best thing since sliced bread, but we didn't know it was just going to make our kids anxious and depressed. So, you know, like we meant to give them a better world, but instead we just took a fat shit next to the fire pit. And, you know, we're not going to leave the campsite better than we found it.
Listen, it's not entirely the cell phones, and there's something very good about kids being able to be in contact with their friends if they had tangible, real kind of relationships. You know,
Yeah.
like I've talked to my son, and you know, like
He
do your
talks to you?
friends know I'm divorced? No. It's been 7 years, you know, but on the other hand,
That's history, Dad. We
the
don't make
kids, the poor kids, and I see it more in my youngest, at 24, but they had to live with the last, we'll go back 5 years with an assault on truth. And they were hearing things that they knew, you know, if they had any brain in their head, they knew these are lies. And how can people say this? And oh my God, we're gonna be in a nuclear war with Kim Jong-un. And then COVID. And so
Yeah.
it's been a horrible, horrible 5 years. Loss of contact, loss of truth, loss of fidelity.
I don't know if it's across the board, but I find that millennials today, they don't have a connection to history. And I think it's largely because they're not made to have to remember anything. Everything's at their fingertips with Google
Yeah.
or whatever search engine they use. I was at a restaurant last week, and my waiter was a high school kid, and I had just moved from Lakehurst to Bayville, and I was talking to the kid, and he says, "Where you from?" I said, "Lakehurst." I said, "That's the home of the Hindenburg disaster." He had no idea what the hell I was talking about. Never heard of the Hindenburg in his life. And it just like it dawned on me, like, you know, what kind of generation
But
is
you
this?
know something, we had, who taught history on our show recently?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what's his name? One of our favorite guests. What's
I'll
his name?
never forget old what's his name. Yeah.
Anyway, you know, my kids did not learn what was going on in reality when they were growing up, and they went to a nice suburban school district. We were talking about what he's teaching now to his middle schoolers, and it's Greek and Roman times and Sparta and stuff like that. And, you know, I remember studying history thinking, why do I have to remember that the Norman invasion of England was 1066? How, you know, I would rather, and I think if kids learned what was going on and were required to read a newspaper and maybe talk about things that are going to affect their lives significantly, they'd be a little more engaged.
Yeah. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's hard to argue against history and reality, you know, and the news.
It's very easy nowadays, Adam.
No,
Did
they
you
don't
hear
argue
about
it.
the
don't
airports in the Revolutionary War that were destroyed?
Yes. Yes, of course. So, yeah, there's not even here's the interesting thing about the last 4 years is that it was tough almost to do comedy about it because you have to exaggerate to do comedy, right? You have to accentuate the absurdity, right? And there was no way to do that.
Adam,
It really started with Sarah Palin because all you had to do to make fun of Sarah Palin
I can see.
was repeat what she said. You know,
Adam, that's exactly, listen.
right.
But you know,
couldn't-
it was
you couldn't-
beautiful where you didn't even have to say this is satire. I'm just quoting the guy.
Right.
There were many times that I quoted Trump and it was hysterical.
Right.
Right.
Well,
but
Biden is the worst thing though for comedy because he's really hard to make fun of. I find people do it, right-wing comedians do it, oh, he's senile, he's old. Yeah, he's old, but that's cheap shots, that's, I mean, oh, he's old. Yeah. Old and fat. Those
Yeah,
are
the only thing I got him on him is I think he should come out with a line of fragrant hair shampoos.
ah,
And the picture on the label will be a little girl with beautiful flowing hair, and he'll be behind her sniffing.
right. Sniffing it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Anyway, that's the only
That's
he,
more- that's more
he
creepy than
survived.
funny.
People don't know he survived stuttering, and I kind of understand that. And so he starts off and starts in a, restarts in a totally different place for some reason.
Yeah, but
Um,
again, making fun of stuttering is that's cheap stuff. Yeah, you have to speak truth to power, right? You have to be talking up. You can't be going for you can't be punching down, right?
Right.
And stuttering and old and fat and those I mean, you can make fun of yourself for any of those, but
Oh, that was all the tell with Trump, that everybody had to have a nickname.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody had to have a nickname. It was like he was in, an obnoxious prep school or something like that.
I did actually. There's one Biden. I did actually get a call from a stuttering telemarketer recently. And
No.
yes, and the only reason I think that might be ripe for comedy is because my sense of it is like, of all the there's your cat.
Where?
Where? Yeah. Oh, you have an even better screen background than I do. Yours gets in front of you. A stuttering telemarketer is like when he took the test, the occupational aptitude test. Did he not maybe score higher on something besides telemarketer? And then him having to deal with both my last name and with a stutter. It was
Oh, no.
a long conversation.
So
I
used to, when I was a
rooting
kid,
for him.
I stuttered, and
did
I
you?
did a routine about that. I'm like, because I would be in like 5th grade and I'd have to raise my hand, yes. And I had to say, I have to go and see Mrs. Smith, my speech therapist. But at the time, it didn't sound like that when I said it, because I had trouble with S's, THs, CHs, all that.
Right.
And the other thing is, it seemed to me that they should have come up with a name for what I did that I could pronounce.
Right. That seems cruel.
Yeah,
Now-
you call it stut. That's where they'd stop, stut.
Now, we mentioned the 80s. Back in the 80s, I used to be a telemarketing manager.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
did
so I was the
did
one
you hire
training
this
these-
guy?
Yeah. It's the most annoying occupation
You know
can
something though, but you stayed on with him long enough to know he was a stutterer, and you didn't want to be rude because you're a decent person. And then as soon as you realized what was happening, I know you went like,
Right. Yeah,
You
no,
can't-
well, I was actually rooting for the guy because he was like, hi, is this Adam? With my name. And I was, come on, man, you can do it. You can do it. Keep plugging.
And then, so
I-
the bit, I'm just seeing the bit for this for you could be, the name of the company he represented was like really long.
That's good.
So it's with the Occidental Marine Insurance Indemnity Company, except that took 3 minutes.
Right. Well, what happened is I ended up buying some stuff, and I never buy from a telemarketer. And it turned out that was just his hook. He didn't really have a stutter. That was
Well, I also did telemarketing myself, and I was really good at it. And part of what made me good at telemarketing is what made me a decent comic, is the ability to build up an instant rapport with someone.
yeah.
And, it's really bottom line with telemarketing.
Yeah. Well, I worked in finance for a while, and they had us, cold calling, and when at the beginning, and when I sort of moved up a little bit, there was a young guy who was there, and he this is much more recently, and he made 17,000 cold calls, got one appointment, and the guy canceled it.
Oh,
So I was like, dude, you should just go out and hang in a bar. Yes, if
Yeah.
you're making like, did you not figure out like at 9,000 calls that maybe the strategy was not working for you?
There was a movie like that called, was it Sale of the Century, with Chevy Chase as an arms dealer, and he's in this like rundown hotel room for months, just waiting for a phone call from the defense minister of Iran or something.
I never saw that one. That was one of Chevy's less popular movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
man.
So, do
So
you
Adam,
have
what do you have
favorite?
coming down the pike? anything good?
Well, I have a sort of residency at the Brook Art Center, where we're
Oh.
doing several shows this year. The next one, I've got a lot of private stuff coming up, but
Yeah.
not a lot of club gigs. But and we're trying to get this Aged Wine comedy tour back up. It's playing at theaters in Pennsylvania, and we had a lot of bookings for it set up before the COVID. So now we're trying to reestablish them at
Okay.
places like the Bedford Playhouse and the Watertown Stage Company. Some theaters have folded. Some theaters where we were actually scheduled to be have folded. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, but July, August, September, and October, we have stuff coming up at the Brook Art Center. So I would recommend. There's some comics on that you guys probably know with me. John Moses is on in July. Jessica Kerson's on in August. Mike Vecchione and Kevin Israel are on in September and October.
Nice.
So,
Nice. I'm going to be
yeah.
playing there in October. I'm opening for Julius Scotti and Uncle Floyd.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's great. Good. Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff.
Where is the Brook Art Center?
It is in Bound Brook, New Jersey, and you can get tickets for it at the. If you Google Brook Art Center, I don't have it's brookarts.org or something like that. I could look it up right now.
Close enough, and you can send me the link. We'll add it to our. We'll add
Right.
it to our show description.
Yes, that's what it is. Brookarts.org.
Okay.
And and Tom's gonna be there with another production company. So in between, I'm doing a lot of private events because they pay better. So they're not for profit events.
Those are my favorite, the private events. I just got asked to do a Rotary Club in June, and people book me for those shows because they know I do a clean act.
Right.
I'm not vulgar. I don't do a lot of nasty
What,
stuff.
Tom? What? You don't do a lot of what? Bestiality stuff?
Bestiality jokes like Doug.
Does Doug? Do you do a lot of bestiality? That wouldn't
I
fit
do
your-
not do a lot of
On the weekend.
bestiality, Adam.
Just enough bestiality.
I don't. I'm just very. I'm just very good with animals. Is the way I put it.
Okay, that's
Don't put this on me. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Animals, they're animals. They're gonna do what they do.
You can't say that better than you just did.
you.
Animals are animals.
Thank you.
So
Although you make me think of something that the famous philosopher Joseph Wood Crutch wrote in 1929. He wrote of the paradox of humanism, where those qualities we ascribe to being humans are more often found in animals and vice versa.
interesting. Yeah, I like dogs better than people, so I can see that. So
I like chicken.
you like chicken? Yeah.
Yeah, and we can see chicken loves you, buddy.
Remember John Belushi's bit about Elizabeth Taylor being on a chicken diet?
I
Classic.
remember that. I miss him so much.
Yeah.
I love for some reason, when I think of Belushi, I think of the Samurai Taylor scene with Buck Henry. And he goes,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. No, to the left. Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is really pathetic that we're talking about.
It was the
somebody
first time. I don't know how old. Well, I was in college at the time when Belushi was there. So I'd never known at the time that fine men's pants could be tailored
Oh,
to
yeah.
accommodate the
Yes.
direction of.
Which way do you dress is the way they would say it in the day, back in the day. Which way do you dress, sir?
Well, I never had anybody ask me that. If they asked me that today, I would give an
You know
answer
why,
that
Doug?
would make that guy worry, be very upset he asked me.
They didn't ask you because you, like me, you're Jewish, so they don't have to ask.
They didn't take that much off.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so pleated pants. I'm going to put that in our.
He's making notes for his act. So,
No,
How
this
do you
is
spell haberdasher?
no, this is. I've got to write up something explaining the show, and because we never have an agenda, we never know what we're going to do. And so far we've got hairy chest.
Leave my grandmother out of this.
yeah. My high school math teacher too. She was.
So I was going to say Oliensis sounded like a fragrant flower that was also poisonous.
Oh, you
But that's
sweet.
a oleander, I think.
Yeah, you sweet talker. You're just trying to get close to me, aren't you?
Listen, you've I will give you props because you
That's what I'm
I
here
love
for.
it when people try to argue with you, and I know I know their sources are lame, and people try to argue really persuasively for the things that they believe in.
Sure. Everyone.
And the sad thing is there's one component I learned in logic, and that's when you're arguing for something that is illogical at the beginning, no amount of logical pieces that you put together in some sort of proof are going to deal with that flaw. And that seems to be the logical argument that I see everyone making. They think I can put together, Tucker Carlson does it. And then the guys do it on Facebook.
Okay, let's get really academic here. There's something called Gödel's was a mathematician, and he came up with something called the incompleteness theorem, right? Which is that no mathematical or logical system can function without having at least one axiom that is not verifiable within that system, right? So there has to be at least one foundational axiom that you can't prove. And that's where Trump's brilliance is, and his dim-wittedness at the same time.
Because they start with that.
Well, but he never gets off. He never moves away. I had a conversation with a conservative guy once who said to me, look, these are my convictions and nothing you can say will change my mind. And I said, well, there you go. Right. Then you have dogma. You don't have a well-reasoned conclusion. You have well-reasoned confusion, not conclusion. But and that's where we are as a society. We're just shouting articles of faith at one another and not having discussions within. That's why Hillary Clinton lost, because she was not addressing the foundational axioms. She was trying to work from shared axioms through a logical process, but that's not what anybody in our culture is interested in anymore, right? Nobody wants to depart from their axioms and their faith. That's why we're having tribal conflicts and not political discussions. And you can't win a tribe. The only thing, as a guy I used to know said, okay, now's when the hitting starts, right? Because there's no more talking. There's no more. And I found, and marriage politics, and I still trade in the markets. My marriage politics and the markets have taught me the same things, that no matter how certain I am that I'm right, there's still a 30%, right? But most people feel that they're just right and they're never going to get off their dogma. Whoops. Am I fading out? I'm seeing.
No, you froze. You froze when you said, right before you said the 30%, you had frozen.
There's a 30% chance that I'm wrong, no matter how certain I am that I'm right. But almost nobody acknowledged that. Everybody's just going to stick 100% to their axioms and stick with their tribal beliefs, and we're not going to have any logical conversations. They just don't do any good. My wife, I can't argue with. I studied philosophy, I studied martial arts, I went to therapy, all these ways of trying to be able to engage at various levels, but they're all useless. My wife doesn't want to argue with me. She's just got her views, and
you got to try the martial arts harder, Adam.
Yeah, no, that's the messed up thing. I'm not even allowed to hit her anymore.
So I haven't told this joke in a long time because I got in trouble for it. But when my first son was born, he had a condition called torticollis from coming out of a really tight place,
Okay.
which is where the inappropriate comment came. But anyway,
Yeah.
so we went to a doctor, an orthopod, very odd. Anyway, he just diagnosed it and he said, it's a muscle kink. And so when you
Oh, right.
feed him, hold him, so he's always looking to the right. So, a couple days passes and I see my ex holding my son and he's looking to the left. And I said, you're supposed to hold him so he's looking to the right. And she looks at him and she says, he is. And then I said the two words. I said, his right. Anyway, we had a huge fight over that, over right, which way was right and which way was left. I was right, but somehow I lost the argument. And the other thing, I don't know if you've noticed that Tom isn't married, Adam, but I used to get into, my ex would turn to me, she would ask me a question. And as I'm thinking of whether or not I should answer yes or no, she would answer for me, yell at me for my answer, and just keep, I remember the first time it happened, I said, I didn't say anything. Don't you?
Right.
It didn't. Anyway, the other thing that I hate to say on air, but somehow she always knew exactly what I was thinking. I hadn't said anything, but
Yeah. And you're divorced, imagine.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah. My wife says what I'm thinking that she thinks I might be thinking that's critical of her. And then I get blamed for being critical because she said what she thought I might be thinking. So I don't even really need to be in the marriage. She's got both jobs covered.
no, you the problem is you're leaving gaps in airtime. So she's filling that vacancy with her imagination.
Sure.
You should be performing nonstop. You control the dialogue. Okay. Another problem.
That's tiring. I'm too old for that. That's
another problem solved.
That's
Wait a minute. No, I think I had another technique. No, maybe not.
Wait a minute is always the best thing to say on radio. So, yeah. This is going to be dead air. Doug's doing Tai Chi right now. We're watching him, and you guys on the radio. Just
Thank you.
hold on.
I forget. We need to do a
comedy Tai Chi.
Yeah, we need to explain to the people that are only listening in audio.
Yeah.
I normally have to explain Tom's humor to our Ethiopian audience.
Yeah. I had a podcast. I interviewed a mime. It was just terrible. It was.
I've been introduced to stage. I've been brought up on stage probably more than 10 times now as New Jersey's only mute comedian.
Was your ex-wife hosting? Yeah.
Turns out it was just wishful thinking.
And Tom, like my first professional comedy gig, brings me up. Neither of us knew anything about how do you want to be brought up. He brought me up. How did you bring me up, Tom?
And now a friend of mine who you'll soon see. Now, how did I do it? I forget.
The strangest man you've ever met.
Okay. I still stand by that.
Right.
Thank you.
Violating the Aristotelian principle that you shouldn't arouse the serious emotions if you want to do comedy. So he made everybody afraid that someone from a horror movie was coming to the stage, and so.
You see,
I called you quirky. Quirky was
Quirky.
the word.
Oh, quirky's good.
Listen, I've always ascribed to the view that if you are like a really horrible comic, the other comics will love you because it makes it so easy on the audience. I mean, I've been up after comics that are even worse than me, and the audience is, they're grateful. They're like, oh my God, we can laugh again. The sun is out. I've seen comics get up. My favorite story, the worst comedy show, this woman went up, it was a Scotty's New Talent Night. She went up with her list of things: divorce, medical problems, got fired, her family
topics,
doesn't talk
right?
to
Yeah.
her,
Yeah,
her
yeah.
life is horrible. So this is the act, and there's not a laugh. And then she's like, my life is so horrible, I wrote a song about it. And she was a horrible singer, musician, didn't know lyrics. It was horrible. It was, but you know,
Well, that's what we're all trying to avoid. That's what I consider. That's what I consider kind of my first objective as a comedian, is to avoid being in a situation like that. So I try to leave those in my nightmares.
see, I carry that with me all the time, just to remind me that I'll probably never reach that bad.
Later, it won't be
Doug,
that
you're
bad.
better than.
Yeah. Well, that's another way of looking at it. It's a sort of mirror image of what you're doing.
Maybe when I send out my video, I should send out a little explanatory note, whataboutism, and with a video of her set,
Oh yeah.
like compare and contrast. Who would you hire? Okay.
Right.
All right. Tom, what else are we going to talk about tonight? Oh, Norwegian comedy. We didn't get to that.
And speaking of wretched horror, I think one of those Norwegian countries, might be Finland, has the highest suicide rate in the world. So
Wow.
So that's
I
how
think
good their
I think
comedy
you're
is.
right. I think it's the
Doug, you should do a tour of Finland. Was it Finland?
Right.
what would the name of the tour be, Tom? The last show, the last comedy no, your last comedy show.
Right. I think the angle to take there, it was like, hey, you guys, we're all going to be dead most of the time. What's the hurry? So
Yeah.
that's, I've been thinking about, I've actually had suicide on my mind quite a bit lately, because I've been wondering if Hitler, just before he killed himself, coming back to Hitler where we started, if Hitler called the suicide hotline from the bunker.
I love
I'm
it.
feeling
Yeah.
bad. Why
Yeah.
do you feel bad?
Yeah. Well, I don't. How long have you been feeling? Oh, honestly, since Normandy. It's just I'm just feeling listless. All the Mussolini. They hung him. There's no other tyrants to really feel close to anymore.
I've done some other bad things.
Yeah.
Maybe not so
Honestly,
good.
yeah. At this point, it looks like the Jews are going to survive as a race. It's just, what's the point?
My
God.
final solution, dissolving into air.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm trying to work up a whole. I'm trying to make as much. You're not really allowed to make fun of anybody else anymore. So I think Hitler is still a
Adam,
safe target.
No, you're not. What's it called? Like when a black guy does white humor or a white guy you're not
Cultural appropriation.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you my story. Tom hates this one, but you're going to love it.
Okay.
I dated a woman whose father survived both Auschwitz and Buchenwald.
Oh my gosh.
And she went with her father and like 15 relatives to the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Buchenwald. 20,000 survivors who had survived Buchenwald.
Not much comedy being done there, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, right.
20,000 survivors who had survived all came to this weekend-long commemoration. There were prayers, there were services. She says one night they had a banquet fit for a king for all the survivors. We're at this banquet table. You see it looks like a king. There's everything piled high up on the table. She leans across the table to her father and says kind of loudly, "Dad, the food isn't so bad here."
Oh, jeez.
So
Diff-
I
different-
love that. And
Different caterer.
I tell it authentically as from the woman I dated, but at the time I called up my father. I go, Dad, did we have any family that, I told him about the joke. I said, did we have any family? Because the joke would be better if it came from my family. He goes, no, I don't think so. I said, well, what about Mom? He yells out, Shirley. He gets back on the phone. No, sorry.
Sorry, none of our family.
No. Tom, the Italians don't seem to have as dark a humor as the Jews. You think that's maybe because you weren't hunted and slaughtered, or is it
That could be.
or is it the food?
Oh, it's the food. You mentioned the table. You described every Sunday at my parents' house. They had a spread like you wouldn't believe.
Who let in the Buchenwald survivors? Get them out of here.
Well,
They eat like animals.
Yeah, there's not quite as much suffering in Italian history, right? Plus, the
They were discriminated against, when they.
Yeah, but for a little while, not for thousands of years. You guys had your own, but they have their own comedic tradition, Commedia dell'arte and clowning and circus and all those kinds of.
They had a fucking empire. You had an empire.
They owned their own comedians. That's why, and they didn't have to be them. They just.
What do you know about the Commedia dell'arte? Was that a dell'arte?
Commedia dell'arte. Yeah, it was it's the fundament of our contemporary comedy stuff. It's or guys like Buster Keaton are much more like commedia types. It was a theater style which was very physical and mimetic and all kinds of clowning stuff comes out of there. The Harlequin, as a comedic clown, comedic types like the angry clown, Laurel and Hardy are Commedia dell'arte. But it's more clowning than talking.
Right.
The Italians, a lot more stooping, a lot less whining. So
a lot of drinking wine.
Yeah.
When I went to Italy, I discovered one of the reasons they don't see it as drinking. They've got the what's it called, an aperitif before dinner. Yeah. Right, that's before dinner, so it's associated with the meal, and then they've got their wine with dinner, and then afterwards, what do they drink? A digestiva.
Yeah. All good, right?
No, the digestiva is a disgusting thing.
Oh yeah, no, but it cleanses you. It makes the food rush through you.
Oh yeah.
So I've had it. They'll take balsamic vinegar, as I understand it, is kind of like wine that's gone really bad. And then they refine it so it's even worse. And then the digestiva is you take this vinegar that's horrible, bad wine made worse, and you make it even thicker. So it was like, this is what I saw. I did like a dab on my finger. I'm like, oh my God, of course that's not gonna even give you time to digest. It's gonna flush everything out.
That's why Jews don't drink it, because it cuts the chicken fat, and you don't want that.
Speaking of fat, growing up Italian, we don't eat like this now. You die in a half an hour. But we used to have like cold antipasto. There used to be like prosciutto and 6 kinds of salamis and mortadella and this and that. There was so much fat.
Here, Tom, have the fat.
At my parents' house, if you ate there on a Sunday and you sat on the toilet bowl and didn't slide off, you were doing something wrong. It was amazing. Right. I don't know how we ate like that.
You think on their deathbed anybody says, "I wish I'd had the grilled chicken"?
No.
Yeah, you should have
had the salad.
Yeah, have the cold antipasto and enjoy yourself.
I never thought of that, but and like the bologna and stuff like that, it's the fat just ground up.
It just oozed the fat.
Right, but that's not what kills you. Modern research is not. It's the refined carbohydrates that kills you.
Yeah.
So, so have the fat.
I'll tell you, since January I've lost a little over 40 pounds.
Wow!
And a big part of it was I've eliminated carbs.
Yeah.
I don't eat rice. I don't eat bread. I don't eat pasta. I don't eat potatoes. So
Awesome.
there's something to it.
That's like,
Yeah.
that's half my diet, Tom.
Most people don't know Doug lost about 150 pounds, his ex-wife.
But a boom.
I'm getting fat. I can't talk about it on the show because I'm like, I shouldn't admit this. I weigh, according to my scale, which I can't believe is accurate, I weigh 165. And my peak, I was like 150, 155. So I'm like 10 pounds overweight.
Doug, I was 165 in junior high school. I have a talking scale. All it says is, hey, one at a time.
Yeah. Hey, why don't you skip a meal?
Yeah, have a salad, why don't you?
You wrote an entire bit about what your talking scale would say to you. I know that was one of, what were some of the other things?
You know, my talking scale actually talks to my Alexa now. They talk behind my back.
I was in LA and a long time ago, and I got on a scale I was at a party, and I took a leak in the bathroom at the party, and I got on this California talking scale, and it said, you weigh 168 pounds. Have a nice day. And I was thinking, like, what would a scale in New York say? Like, hey, get off me, you fat fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to say what you made me think of.
Well,
I'm
then
not
what
going
he
to say it. But I wanted everyone to know I was thinking of something that would have kept the show moving.
again,
But then I realized it's
again, not
probably
putting
not appropriate.
not putting in sound what he's thinking is not the best strategy for radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll make it up in the video.
Yeah.
I'll do a little cartoon of what
I said
was
it to my
thinking.
wife, like, I'm not going to do to you what I was thinking of doing. And she's like, oh, great, thanks. You know, I'm just going to think about it and take care of it by myself. You know, it's that's sort of masturbatory radio. What you're doing is. So no man is an island. No man is an island, Doug. Tell us what you were
It's
thinking.
interesting that you described it that way, Adam, because ironically, what I was thinking of, and I don't know why you were bathroom scale, made me think of hearing a story about booths that were set up in some city. I don't think it was New York. It might have been Tokyo, where people could go in and masturbate.
Okay. Maybe you should have kept that to yourself.
That's why they don't let me back in the Walmart.
Did either of you hear this story, or is this just my imagination?
No. Well, they used to have those in Times.
I would not have had that. I would not have. Hey, you know, it would be a good idea.
They used to have those in Times Square.
That was you.
$20 for that.
Yeah. Boy, there's a business that get obviated by new technology, right? So you used to have to go into a booth to, you know, a lot of people, this is a related subject. A lot of people think the world is getting worse and worse, but I disagree. And one of the reasons I think that is there are no more pay toilets, right? You remember when you were a kid and you were driving on the Jersey Turnpike, there were pay toilets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And you went in there and you didn't have a dime. Right. So you had to crawl it through the piss, which seemed worth saving a dime when you were a kid. Right. And get in there, do what's your business. And then you had to climb out under there again. Our kids don't know that kind of hardship.
No, not at all.
The world is getting better.
But you could make them feel that. Like you younger kids, 9, 11, something like that. 13, you could say, if you want me to pull over and let you go to the bathroom, you have to mow the lawn.
Yeah, except think about if I don't, who suffers?
Yeah, right.
I don't have the leather in my car.
Give him the mayonnaise jar.
Give him the mayonnaise. Wait, is that a masturbation joke again?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
I was on my car form was crazy for an older BMW model. And I remember one time I wrote a joke, or I wrote it very seriously, that I had installed an in-car urinal. And I described how I drilled a hole through the firewall and inserted a 5/8 inch polyethylene tube and, you know, routed it through the underskirt and then hooked it up to a funnel.
And where's the joke part?
Yeah, right.
The joke was that people believed it.
Ah, okay. So it was a prank. It was a punk.
Yes. As
Yeah.
a troll, yes.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. Yeah. You know what comedians don't do anymore is punk the audience, right? You used to see that, like Andy Kaufman
Yeah.
or even Albert Brooks. He would do like the world's worst ventriloquist. And you don't see that kind of pulling one over on, like making fun of the form itself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Going outside the form.
Although you make me think of Chips Cooney. Have you seen him do his magic act?
I've never actually had the pleasure, but I've heard he's legendary. Yeah.
So he'll take a cowbell and he'll ring it, and he'll cover it with a hanky,
Handkerchief.
and he'll wave his hand over it, and he'll flick it back, and you'll hear the cowbell hit the stage until lift
Right.
up the.
Exactly, but that's old school. Chips has been doing that act.
And
for-
then there's
Not
there's
new.
the version
Not
of his
new.
act where he explains how he does that. So sometimes he'll leave it at that, and sometimes he'll say he's been required to tell how he does some of his magic. So in that, when you were distracted because I was waving my hand, I threw the cowbell behind me, and
Right.
I feel guilty because I've hired Chips over the years for, different shows. And almost always I would request that he do his magic act. Is that wrong to ask a comedian to, pigeonhole his act?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so. No, if you're not demanding it, you're not saying I'm not going to pay you unless you do your fucking cowbell joke. But no, I don't think so. So
well,
I've-
but Tom, if you said, Doug, I'd like you to do this show, and I want you to do your dog story, the puppy story, the masturbating chimpanzee story, and the elephant penis, I would feel like
there's a heavy emphasis on animals here. Yeah, but
I was just as an example.
yeah. But again, we're back to this animal thing.
Yeah, it's a constant theme.
Yeah.
Animals are all around us. They're part of our lives.
Hey, I'm right here, Doug.
It's a good point. It's a very good point.
Also, they don't talk.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can be trained to do a wide variety of things. And ladies, if you're listening, you can get them in a wide variety of colors to match your decor.
I have found though that chimpanzees often point and laugh.
I don't want more context on that one.
Tom, this is the part of the show I always hate, where we come up and I ask what you're doing, what you've got coming up.
Oh,
Because then when you ask me, it's an equivalent length of time of my crying. But go on.
well, I did just pick up a few gigs. Thursday, June 10th, I'm doing the Rotary Club that I mentioned earlier. I love those shows with the private clubs. You don't have to worry about getting bringers. That's the best thing.
And you don't have to worry about food.
You don't have to worry about food, and you're getting
Yeah.
paid. So
Yeah,
that's a
you're
win-win.
definitely getting ziti. You're
Yeah.
definitely getting chicken marsala.
right.
Yeah. You know what you're going to be eating.
Nice Italian bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
I
a
don't
salad.
eat that. So June 10th, I got that. Saturday, June 26th, I have the Acme Screening Room in Lambertville, New Jersey.
Okay.
Saturday, July 10th, I have a private party in Point Pleasant. And July 17th, the Polish American Club in White House Station, which I did a couple of years ago. And a friend of mine from high school is a member there.
Wow,
So
they're
I'm
having
looking
you.
forward to
They're
that.
having you back, huh?
Yeah.
Double check that the address they give you, Tom.
Very nice. It's always nice when they have you back, but that puts pressure on you. You can't. You got to do new stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
see, I just fucked up his act in that.
You have to rewrite everything, Tom.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
And
right?
I got a joke for you. So
Yeah.
you pick this woman up on a date and you start petting her dog, right?
Ay, ay, ay. So,
Adam,
Yeah,
things coming up for you, you would like our audience to be
sure. Let me see.
aware
I'm
of?
just pulling up. Actually, I'll be in Carmel, New York on May 26th at someplace there. And
Make sure you brush your teeth well after that.
yes, it's at a new venue there. I got a couple of private events. Then I'm going to be at Capone's in PA on July 3rd, July 16th. I'll be at the Brook Arts Center. And other than that, it's just fundraisers and private events. So
nice. Doug, you got anything going?
Oh, of course, Tom. I planted grass seed where we had the tree cut down in the back, and I've been watering that regularly. I'm doing that at the, let's see, what day is today? Yeah, so
Aren't you
that's
doing a-
I'm doing that on the 18th at 8:15 in the morning, probably around 2, and then sometime around 8 o'clock at night. I think
Aren't you doing a barbecue in May?
I think I'll be doing food shopping tomorrow.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'll be out in Meadowbrook, Long Island, getting acupuncture on Wednesday.
Nice.
Yeah,
Adam, you know I do acupuncture. I haven't done it before, but
you'll do it now. Yeah,
I've seen it done.
yeah, yeah.
I've
I'll
got
get
good
back,
dexterity.
I'll get back to you on that.
My liposuction has really been a boon to my retirement. At $15 a pound, people are really attracted to it.
Oh, gee.
You buy a 2-gallon wet dry vac, it's like
Uh-huh.
$30. You throw it out,
Yeah.
you don't have to sterilize it. Nobody has ever used it before.
Now, is it liposuction or liposuction? Because in my case, it's hipposuction.
I would like to tell your listeners, if you're out there in the world and you're hoarding gas, use paper bags, not plastic.
I've been telling people the doggy poop bags are really good too, Adam, with the twist tie, and because they biodegrade, over a period of time.
Yeah. You know how everybody thinks like dogs are lucky because they can lick their bowls? Kind of a well-worn premise, And yeah, but have you ever seen a dog finish like that? Yeah. Why not? Because they don't have thumbs. Ha. So fuck them and their tongues. I have thumbs.
Although
always trying to
not
raise the
argue
bar.
with you, not to argue with you, it just so happened I trimmed the dew claws on my girlfriend's beagle last night. So it's not a thumb.
A much smoother ride now, huh?
It's he looked up at me with this look like, oh, thank you. back in the saddle again.
Yeah. Does your girlfriend trim yours as well? So, smoother ride.
You find out what true love is.
Yeah.
That's one of the most disgusting things to think about, trimming, not fingernails as much. I don't know why, but thinking of trimming somebody else's toenails. And I have experience with it because of my 96-year-old, 7-year-old dad.
You're getting me all turned on, Doug.
And I could not do it so bad. I had to take him to a podiatrist.
Yeah. Well, that was better than taking him to a gastroenterologist for that.
So, Adam, the truth is, I wanted to take him to like an Asian spa that does nails, but he wouldn't have felt comfortable in them, and then all the women would have been talking about him behind the
toward the end of his life, my father's toenails were so thick that he actually had to go to lawn care and get them filed down with outdoor machinery.
Wow. A grinder.
Yeah, it was a grinder. The thing they used to sharpen blades. That's what they.
You got to get them. The thing is, you got to get them walking more is the key. My dad was just like lazing around the house. He's like, Doug, can you do this? I'm like, Dad, you don't do anything. Do something.
The only experience Doug has with grinders is the web page, the website.
The webpage, yeah, with that and with the beagle.
Is that the gay site, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see. You guys are kind of a Commedia dell'arte team. Yeah. So, you got it's kind of a Laurel and Hardy thing going on here.
Yeah.
So
Well, we got the fat and skinny down.
I'm the old
Yeah.
Jew,
Yeah.
and he's the fat guy. Yeah, Tom, can you be something other than that?
I'm
That's like a
trying.
significant. Well, okay, so you lose weight, you're still going to be huge. Could you adopt something else? Like, could you be some other kind of Italian comic so that maybe people don't notice how big you are?
I guess. Yeah. Why
I
not?
think you should start thinking about billing yourself as like a thin guy, like do a character as if you're thin. Your whole act, like you believe in your mind.
Well, you know how dyslexics see things backwards,
Uh-huh.
and anorexics think they're fat but they're really skinny. I'm a dyslexirexic, whatever that means.
I love it, Tom. Nobody knows what it means, but it's funny.
Are we talking
don't
about
know.
God or dog? I can't tell.
Adam, what did you what did you study in college?
I got I studied a few things. I studied I got a philosophy degree.
Yeah.
That
was my minor.
Oh yeah. And then I also got an acting degree.
Okay.
And I also spent a lot of time studying martial arts.
Wow.
So yeah.
I took 2 semesters of judo.
Oh yeah.
But my skills really developed when my sons became black belts in taekwondo, because I watched them take 2 or 3 classes a week for 4 years.
Uh-huh.
I didn't do it. I just watched them. But my imagination was, you remember the scene in Seinfeld where Kramer was bragging about beating up all the people in his karate class? Yeah. They were 5 years old.
Yeah. No, I was on the Montclair State sumo wrestling team.
What was your martial art, Adam?
Well, I studied some Tai Chi, and then I went to India and studied a martial art called Kalari Payat, which is a lot of weapons. That was through the theater program, actually, at college. But then I taught that for a couple of years at the university there, in University of Wisconsin. And then I also studied Taekwondo for about 15 years.
Nice.
And,
see, that's interesting. I wanted to build myself as the corduroy ninja.
The corduroy ninja. See, I thought I would need this, but in my adult life, as a grown up, it doesn't. Like here's the way the martial arts works for me. I remember when my eldest was a baby, she was sleeping between my wife and me, and I was kind of 2/3 asleep, and I saw her left foot sort of fly into the air, not my wife's, my daughter's, the baby. Her foot flew into the air, and she brought it down in a perfect axe kick on my liver, at which point I sat up and went, oh, right? And my wife sat up, grabbed the baby, clutched her to her breast, and said, why are you waking the baby?
Why were you eating liver?
Yeah.
I remember I got to use my judo skills, and I had some great teachers, and we just repeated whatever the basics were in judo, but I was good with the flip. So fast forward a few years, I'm in grad school. One of my drunk college professors from my industrial psychology program is at the bar where I'm at. I'm eating hamburger. This guy leans over and he tries to get my hamburger. So I get up and move away. He keeps on coming after my burger. And instinct kicked in, and I lean in and I flip him. The guy's 6.5 feet. It was easy for me. I'm, 5.5 feet tall when it's humid. So after I flipped him in this bar near the college, the director of my program happened to be in the bar. I didn't know. He comes up to me. Oh, and I was working for him. I was teaching I was teaching grad students for him. He comes up to me, pats me on the back, and says, "Good flip." I'm like,
Nice. Nowadays, you'd be in. You would have. It's a good thing a woman didn't attack you like that, or you'd be in all kinds of trouble.
Really?
So you didn't get in trouble as a Jew for culturally appropriating judo?
He puts the Jew in judo.
Yeah, it puts the Jew.
But my technique with women was very much like judo. You know how in judo you use other people's offense as your
Sure.
as your defense?
Mhm.
It's so with women, my technique was to not make any move at all. So they'd get frustrated, like, what's wrong with me? And then they'd make the first move.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a variation on that back in the day when I was single. I believed in seduction by attrition. And that is that if you could stay on a date till 3 a.m., right? She was just going to be so tired that she'd go, yeah, just sleep over, please. Just let this thing end, you know?
That's a good plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
She just,
great
her
plan.
judge, all sense of good judgment would be out the window by 3 a.m. So I think really underlying that is that if she let you stay till 3 a.m., she wanted you to stay over anyway.
That's true.
right.
This
If
is
it
true.
was, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Sounds good.
but you know, all these techniques and skills that we develop like that skill is completely atrophied after 26 years of marriage, right?
But you know something, there's a good reason for it. And the reason is because if you get into a relationship based on fallacy and artifice, that's
Mhm.
what you're going to end up with. And if you want a partnership, you need to enter it into honestly and openly with, a few exceptions, obviously.
Is that the principle you use to keep your marriage? Oh, wait, it's over. Yeah.
No, this is the principle I am going to use to keep my girlfriend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get back to me in 6 months.
Well, Adam, I
No,
will
you
tell
guys have been
you,
dating a while.
we've been
How long?
dating 5 years,
5 years.
and it's coming up on 6.
Yeah.
So
And does she
it's
want to get
coming up-
married? Does
it's
she want to get
coming
married?
up on a period. Yeah.
It's coming up on what she has her period every 5 years.
Oh,
Is
I
that-
mean, it's coming up on yeah, like how do you move a relationship forward after dating for 6 years?
Yeah.
So
does she want to marry? Yeah. Yeah.
I suggested to her that we form a synchronized swimming team.
I like that. I like that. That is something that now I can't unsee is you doing synchronized swimming.
In a bathing cap.
Yeah.
I come up for a gasp of air and I cough.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see Tom. If you and your girlfriend are doing it, I want Tom in the trio. So
Esther Williams.
Tom will be our set. He'll be, you ever see Tanked? He'll be the coral reef behind us. I got to get some LED lights for you, buddy.
All right.
yeah.
Okay. On that,
No.
can we say on that note, is that a good?
Sure.
Sure.
I think a better note to go out on is if you can say what your disease is again, Tom, the dyslexic.
Dyslexorexia.
Dyslexia. That's good. I like that.
That's like that's going to be my new second favorite word to strategery.
Well, it's been a pleasure conversating with you. So
Yes, thanks
Ditto,
for coming
Adam.
on
The
the
time
show.
went very quickly. Actually, a lot of time went by very quickly. So when it's up, I'll get you links, Adam. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. I'm your lovely host, Doug Max, and that's my assistant,
pulchritudinous
co-host.
assistant. Yeah.
Yes. And don't forget Jack at jerwinproductions.com for the best comedy show you'll ever put together.
And don't forget to look up Adam Oliensis' site, OLIENSIS. Oliensis. Exactly the way it sounds.
Exactly.
Have you had, I shouldn't ask this, but have you had MCs mess up your name?
Oh yeah. I love it when they do because it gives me 3 minutes up front.
Oliensis? How?
Yeah. The worst ever was Collins.
What?
Yeah.
Bad handwriting and reading.
Exactly. You got
That's one thing about Max. I don't think anybody has screwed up my name. They
They
screwed
don't
up
ask
my
you how you
intro,
spell it.
but not my name.
it. Yeah.
Doug, if it wasn't for you, I was going to make my stage name Max Capacity, like the elevator sign.
Right.
Tom, that would have been a great, we would have had a great comedy name. Doug Max and Max Capacity.
My
Max
middle name was
Capacity and Max.
my middle name was going to be Otis.
Max sodas.
The elevator.
When you get on an elevator,
Huh.
Tom?
I've had people get off,
Yeah.
but then they have to clean up after themselves.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to get to that one. You did very well, very well. Smartly
Thank you.
done.
For our Ethiopian listeners, you do not want to know what that joke was about. Trust me. All right, write to Jack at jirwinproductions.com if you're listening and you want a comedy show, fundraiser, a random comic to come and perform for you for your barbecue, whatever you want. Jack will hook you up. Adam Oliensis, thank you so much for spending time.
Thanks
with us.
again, Adam.
Been a sincere pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Great. Thanks for having me on, guys. Be well.
You too.